What is the most important thing for being safe around horses? In many of the accidents that I've had or that I've been around, this is what's missing. One of the most important things in staying safe around horses is just being aware. And being aware of what the horse is doing and being aware of the little signs that can give you insight into what they are thinking and what they're feeling. So for example, what just happened there is there was a shot or a loud noise off in the distance, and you could see he went from almost a sleepy state to right away alert and looking at that. And it doesn't mean that we have to react and that we should react to everything that the horse does, but we do want to be aware of what the horse is doing so that we can just keep an eye on it. And if we do need to do something to pull their attention back to us or to do something a little different to help bring them into a better state of mind, that is going to do so much to keep us safe. One of the most difficult things that I find it is to watch is someone that is with a horse and the horse is anxious and the horse is really tight. They might not be actually showing it by exploding in the air or by taking off or doing anything like that, but the horse is obviously very uncomfortable in the situation and the person is just not aware of it at all. And it really puts them at risk for having something happen. Because when we have a calm horse that is more attentive to us, even if their attention gets pulled away by other distractions, when we're starting from that place and when we can recognize kind of what's going on with the horse, it will have a huge role in keeping us safe and in creating more of that rapport and connection, that better relationship with the horse. And it also is going to help in our training, because it's always better to train a horse that is relaxed and calm. It's a much better state of mind to teach them something new. So what I want to do today is just go over a few of the little signs too, some of the less obvious things that can give us insight into how a horse is thinking and what they're feeling. So right now with Raleigh, you can kind of tell just from the overall impression of him that he's pretty calm in this moment. He's pretty relaxed. Part of how we can tell that is his neck is low, his neck is out, his head's low, his head was kind of drooping there for a minute. His lower lips are really relaxed. In fact, we can see them kind of almost just slightly twitching a little bit because the muscles are relaxed there. The area around his eye is very soft, and in fact his eye is even starting to close a little bit. If we look at his nostrils, he's breathing normally, slowly. We're not having any flaring of the nostrils. And if we look at just his overall picture, he looks soft, he looks calm. The ears are one of the things that will give us a very good impression of where the horse's attention and focus is. Right now, his ears are slightly pointed back, but you can see that his ears are relaxed. So there's a big difference between ears that are just kind of slightly listing back like that and ears that are pulled flat back against the head. Now, some of the main states of emotion to kind of categorize things broadly for the horse is we have calmness, relaxation, like we have right here with Raleigh. We can also have states of aggression. When we see aggression, one of the most characteristic signs of aggression is going to be the ears flat back and the lips tight. We can also have states of curiosity and focus. So this is where we might see the ears pricked forward and the eyes open and attentive without being strained open. So think of them as kind of just an alert look without the point of being hypervigilant. A lot of times when we have a horse that's in a focused, curious mind, we'll see kind of an outstretched neck. Versus if we have a horse that's in a defensive mode, where they're either anxious, they're tense, they're starting to get frightened, we'll see that horse with the head high up and the neck tight in that it's almost pulled back from here. Now we can even see here, Raleigh has a very high startle response. So you'll see even here when just from me touching him, how we had a little change. His eyes are open more wide. He still doesn't look anxious, but he's a lot more alert than he was just a few seconds ago before I reached up and touched him. What we're going to do is show you some of the first signs of anxiety, and I'm going to point them out first, and then we're going to do something to give Raleigh a little reason to be anxious, and I'm going to help you see them kind of in action more. So some of the subtle signs of tension and anxiety that are more easily missed, because we can all recognize a horse that is prancing around and has big whites around his eyes. But some of the more subtle signs are tension around the muzzle. So if we see tightness around here, if we see the lips pulled up, the nostrils flaring, that's kind of a very easy tell of a horse that is anxious and tight. A lot of times we'll see lines start to develop around the eyes, and we'll see the ears in whatever direction they might be pointing, the ears will be tight. We can also see some anxiety or frustration in the tail. So we'll see a swishing tail for a horse that is getting frustrated or is kind of in conflict between doing things. And it's always important to look at the whole horse. So we don't want to get over fixated on just looking at the ears or looking at the eye, but we want to really take in the whole horse. And especially as you're first getting used to reading horses and getting more familiar with the little signs of their body language, start to just kind of go by your gut. What do you sense from the horse? What do you feel from the horse? And that first impression that you get is probably going to be right. It's probably going to be correct. And the more that you get used to reading horses, especially the more that you get used to your individual horse, you're going to find that you get a lot better at just sensing immediately what kind of a mood they're in without even necessarily consciously noticing the little signs. So what we're going to do right now is give him a reason to wake up a little bit and then see if we can point out a few of those things for you. So we're making some movement in the background, and you can see he's already starting to come a little bit more alert. He's looking at his different surroundings, but we still see a horse that is alert and looking at something that should be frightening to him, but he's not really in a sense of fear about it. Now let's go ahead and bring it closer. And we're going to continue to watch him without me really doing anything. Another thing is when you see a cocked back foot, we know that we still have some degree of relaxation. If we have a cocked back foot, we don't have a horse that's ready to take off. When we get splayed feet, then, and that tight stance, then we know we're getting into a space where we need to be more careful and we need to do something to redirect that horse's attention. Okay, let's go ahead and bring it closer. So now we can see he's getting ready to take action. Notice he's no longer cocked in the foot. He started to back away. We've got a lot more tension through his body. And fortunately, what's making me feel good is he's actually kind of checking in with me a little bit. But let's go ahead and bring it closer. We can see the difference in his head. Now we're starting to see snorting. And notice the difference in his eyes. And notice the difference in his ears. So they're a little tighter forward than earlier when he was just curious about my outstretched hand. Now what we can do in this case, because we don't necessarily want to trigger Raleigh into a big response, let me go ahead and take the paper. Now we're going to go ahead and see if we can get him to show you another kind of series of movements, something called investigative behavior. So I'm going to walk away from him. A lot of times one of the ways to trigger investigative behavior is to move something away when it's still coming at them. So here for the investigative, you can see that his neck's starting to outstretch a little bit. The ears are softer than they were before. And you could just see, even in those few moments, all of a sudden his whole expression started to soften. Now I'm going to move a little bit more. Good boy. An investigative behavior usually ends with the horse coming up and touching the object with their nose and with their whiskers. The lick and chew, people give a lot of different meanings to that, but it's basically a sign of a reduction of stress. So here we come up, he's looking, he's touching it with his muzzle. Another thing that is interesting about investigative behavior is that a lot of times we'll see the flaring nostrils, but it's believed that most of this movement isn't necessarily trying to smell the object. It's more using the tactile sense of the whiskers and of the nose to investigate the object more than actually trying to scent it. The horse has a really good capability of scent, a good sense of smell, and they'll usually be actually smelling the object when they're even farther away from it. So now again, we're starting to see different responses in him, and when you notice these little responses, then you can start to tailor how you act as far as if you're going to keep going, if you're going to back off, if you're going to change the question, so to speak. But it's all about noticing where your horse is at and then making those adjustments to keep you safe, to keep your horse more comfortable, and to make your interaction, your riding and your training a better experience for both of you. Now I want to hear from you. Leave a comment below and tell me one subtle sign you notice about your horse's moods. If you are not watching this on HorseClass.com, that's where the best conversation is, and we have hundreds more free videos like this one and premium courses to help you find the joy in your riding and connect with your horse.